Cloud. Hey everybody, welcome those who are with us live and those who are watching this recorded. This is the Ringing Cedars Community Connection Call. This is being recorded, obviously, and we hope everybody who sees this recorded enjoys it. So this call is intended to bring together Ringing Cedars readers, not just in North America, but anywhere. If you happen to join in and spend some time in spiritual fellowship and exchanging ideas and thoughts and inspirations with other Ringing Cedars readers, it's an open discussion where everybody can discuss what they feel and feel free to participate and add your opinion. This is supposed to be a group thing. It's a very open thing. So as the discussion gets started, just feel free to chime in. This is a talk for everyone. And so usually we've got a lot of familiar faces, and it looks like a lot of people have put their location in their name, which is cool. I don't know where you guys got that from. Everybody's putting their locations, but you're so ahead of the curve. I was going to ask you to drop your locations in the chat, but I almost feel like that's redundant at this point. I know where most people are. So we'll skip that one. And honestly, I just want to go right into my little opening for today. I like to start these with a bit of a, story, some kind of topic to open up the discussion and get us going. And I think today's is really interesting. So I've got some notes here, going to work my way through this, but I wanted to talk about what I like to call positive creation today. And so we had for those of you who were there, thank you for being there, but we had the Education Shatinan's Way Russia-America exchange yesterday, which was really, really powerful. We were speaking with two founders from schools that are carrying on the torch of Mikhail Shatinan's methods in Russia. They are very successful and they have, done a lot and are really holding that torch. And we learned a lot from them. They generously shared all the wisdom and the experience they could in as much time as we had. We had 3 hours and they were just going full bore. And everybody left that feeling very uplifted. And I was happy because to me, the ties of brotherhood between the rest of the world and Russia, because it was such an international and a well attended call internationally yesterday, it kind of solidifies those ties between us, and the Russians are very happy to share their experience with us. And it was just beneficial for everybody. So, I host these calls, I'm so passionate about the Russia-America exchange calls because to me, it's a way to speed up the rate of development of the Ringing Cedars movement, like throughout the world. The more that we are exchanging ideas and inspiration and experience, the more that we can accelerate everything that's happening in North America and abroad. And so that's kind of my goal with those things. And honestly, today's story and topic is something that I kind of wanted to stay away from, but I decided to speak about it. And so before the event, I sent out an event reminder email, and it's detailing the event and everything that people will experience. And, I received a reply to me, which was like really interesting. And it kind of, you know, made me think and made me want to share the story with you. But somebody wrote me and they said they can't attend because they felt like the world would be on the verge of like nuclear war. And, that's something about it being a male dominated world. And where will the children go to school to learn when they turn the earth into Mars? And basically saying now isn't the time to be talking about educational reforms, which I found that interesting. And so I tried to reply and say that, educating children in a loving way and helping them become loving, powerful, benevolent creators is the way to preventing war. Like, where does war originate from? War originates from the consciousness of people that are out of balance and are either full of aggression or pride or greed or all these things. And how did their minds become filled with these feelings, and where did they get that from? It was their upbringing and their education and their family environment. And so I'm saying that education is the way to steer our youth away from that and to fill them with positive morals. And so I said, educating children in a loving way and doing that, this is what we're doing here. And I was told that I don't understand, because what good is educating children in a loving environment when your neighborhood is ablaze and Mother Earth cries? And I was told emphatically that this is not the message that Anastasia stood for, which I also found interesting because she laid considerable emphasis upon educating our children properly throughout the Ringing Cedars books and filling them with positive moral values and things of that nature. And so I replied by saying, "Are we promoting war in your eyes? Does my actions seem like I'm promoting war?" And so I've excerpted very little extracts from this email. It was much longer. There was a lot more substance to it. Um, but I was told that I've answered my own question. Now I can stop all wars, use the power of love, and give children more than an education and give them life and love unconditionally. And so this is very interesting to me because I found that this person's perspective seemed to say that how can we possibly be focusing on educating our children right now when the world is, on the brink of some kind of crisis, right? In her perspective, this is a nuclear war, perhaps a biological war. And it really made me think because on our call, our call was the day after I received this email, and all we see is the smiling faces of teachers and students, students who are in love with life, teachers who are proud and fulfilled with their work, strong, loving, competent children. We see the future of the world right before us. Our call was filled with all these students and teachers, and it was beautiful. And there was so much that was being shared. And, on that call, like we were creating the conditions on the earth under which war could not be possible. But this particular woman, unfortunately, was very gripped with some kind of fear or anxiety about the current events that were happening. And, things are happening in the world, but that doesn't mean we have to completely halt our creative forces, our creative faculties, like our actions, and focus on just those things that are happening. Like in book 10 of the Ringing Cedar series, for those of you who have gotten there, Anasta in book 10, there is a iceberg coming in. Her whole homeland is freezing and people are leaving. And she decides to turn her back on it and use the power of her thought to create the future that she wanted to experience. And she did it boldly and courageously, even in front of such physical evidence as the presence of an iceberg and everything around her freezing. She completely abandons that and goes and is able to rejuvenate her homeland. I won't spoil it for those who haven't read it, but it's this idea that our creative energy can't be locked up in the events of this dying world. Our creative power needs to be directed towards creating the good and the beautiful, because that's the only true and lasting solution. Like it's either this idea of focusing on the dying system and currently what's happening, but it's like, what are we going to do about it? What am I going to do to go and stop a war in Russia or Ukraine or something? By my actions, I do not promote war. By everything I do, I'm creating the conditions in which war cannot exist. I'm doing more than a person, a lot of people are. And by helping people, especially through this event yesterday, by helping people properly educate children, that's the biggest change that I can make. And so, there's another story about it. Like I just interviewed this man named Jim Gale, maybe like 2 weeks ago on our podcast. It's on our YouTube channel, and he's a world-renowned expert on food forests. He's created like hundreds of food forests all across the planet, and he has done tremendous work in changing people's consciousness about freedom and making them into powerful creators and turning this world into a Garden of Eden. And what's really interesting is that he told me in that interview that he spent a few years, like maybe 2 or 4 years, just intensely studying the problems of our world, just deep diving on the problems of the world so deeply. And he said he was a master of all the problems and that he knew them inside and out. But he said at one point, after multiple years of agonizing study of these problems and feeling kind of despondent, He said one day he read a quote by Bill Mollison, the founder of permaculture, which essentially said, though the problems of the world are complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. And he said he started to cry when he read that because he understood where his energy had been directed. And he started on his path of creating food forest after that. He realized that he's spent all this time worrying about the problems and he didn't actually create anything, and he was just paralyzed, and I find that like every single one of us struggles with that to some degree, you know at one point or another, to take our creative energy away from this dying system or whatever negative images of life that we hold, and direct it towards creating the good and the beautiful, because there's all these rational reasons why we should not be doing that. Right? We shouldn't be focusing on educating children right now because there's a war happening or potential war happening. To some degree, that might seem reasonable to a person, you know. But at another point, it's like, well, what can I do? Right? It's like, where can I go? Where are we going? What am I doing with my energy? And what's interesting is that Anastasia says two things. She says the news that we see on the television are the death throes of the dying artificial system. She says, don't pay them too much mind. I think she says that it's between book 1 and 3. I was trying to find the exact quote, but she says to Vladimir, like, don't focus so much on the news on the TV, because all this, it's all repetitive. It's all the same. That system is dying and it's just, you know, putting up its death throes. And, the second thing that she says, this is in book 6, and I'm just going to read it directly, because I didn't want to shy away from this topic talking about the war. I just wanted to address it directly. She says, war will start, but it will be stopped. They will not let it go ahead. Vladimir asks, who? She says, your readers. A new worldview is being formed in them, different from the one that has prevailed throughout the past millennia. They are creating in their dreams. Once dreams begin to turn into reality, all wars and diseases will cease. The glad tidings of these domains will keep spreading throughout the world. People all over the globe will be roused out of their hypnotic incarceration. They will awaken from their millennial sleep. They will change their way of life and build a divine world on the earth with inspiration. And that's the main point where she says, once dreams begin to turn into reality, all wars and diseases will cease. The glad tidings of these domains will keep spreading throughout the world. And when we begin directing our creative energy to turning our God inspired dreams into reality, we will stop all the wars. The conditions that created the wars will no longer exist. Our children will be educated properly. They'll be raised in a space of love where they're filled with love from their very first breath, and they know the creator and they walk hand in hand with God every moment of their life. And, I really wanted to just talk about this because this wasn't the only message that I had received like that. And I wind up fielding a bunch of messages in that vein, to various degrees at various points in time. And, people say, like, how can we continue going forward with the KINS domains? Because the great reset is happening. All this is happening. The technocracy is pushing harder than ever. And it's like, yeah, but so are we. So are we. So is the Ringing Cedars movement. We're going harder than we ever have. People are more inspired than they've ever been. I see the dawn of the new world every day I wake up, you know? And I think the key is, like, I was telling my wife, it's like, if you can get at least 51, ratio 51 to 49, if you get 51 at least of your energy focused on creating, then you're moving forward. And the real goal, like the real people who wind up creating big change, they take even more percentage of their energy and focus it on creating, you know? And it's like, we are the biggest benefit to the world and to ourselves when we boldly continue creating our long held dreams of good and turning them into reality, despite any other conditions that may exist outside of us. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters outside of where we're going, and I wanted to share that message because it was an interesting experience. And like, I just really want us to think about that, and the people who are watching this, and maybe some of the people here present don't need to hear this, but I think it's a good reminder for even me myself, like, to just continue going forward and creating the good and the beautiful, because that's the only way we will create the change. You know, how can any of us here stop a war? You know, I mean, just continue creating a good and beautiful world full of harmony, right? Like, it's not naive. It's the only practical solution there is. There's nothing else to do. What do we do? I mean, you know, so I don't know if this sparks any ideas, if anybody wants to jump in here, but I was quite passionate about it, and I'm glad I had a space to to share about that. So if you are, if you have some thoughts about that idea or want to discuss something else entirely, I'm all game.
I have to say, Gabriel, thank you so much for this topic. Because I think right now, I feel like in my world, there are, the high conversations that you feel like you're floating, you're in these deep, wonderful conversations. And then you feel like you go, talk to someone else and you have to put on the brakes. You have to put on the brakes on,
Right.
you can't even share. You can't even share what your feelings are because it's all this walls. And I just, I have so appreciated that. I know that there was this, I would say altercation, but it didn't feel, I mean, it did kind of feel on Telegram the other day with you and someone.
Hmm.
And that your back and forth with them was like this dance because gosh, I thought to myself, I would have let that go alone, 3 messages ago, but you kept with them and you kept dancing. That's the thing. I feel like, the thing about dancing with what's happening now is I feel like there's gradations of where people are in their
Right.
world. And I just feel like what you're doing is you're being the example of someone who just like, I'm going to have one more conversation with you about this.
Sure.
I'm going to keep going with you. And you're even asking us to even think bigger and, because it's easy to stay with the people who love you. It's easy to
Easy.
talk with them.
It's
But what is
effortless.
it? We're creating a world here. We're creating a world. And I love that you even have this. I wonder how long this email thread
It was
was.
much longer than what I excerpted.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so cool. And I want to also say that when you look up the etymology of worry, it means to strangle.
Yeah.
And I just think in
Really.
the world, yeah. I mean, if you really look at the dance of it, and when it says and strangle, it's something I just looked it up again. A strangle as a sense generally was obsolete and after the 1600s, but the energy of it is still there. The
Hmm.
energy of strangulation is still
Yeah.
there. When you
Right.
worry, you feel all your senses are, you don't even have access. That's the thing. I think you're saying, what you're saying is you believe in people so much that you can see beyond their strangulation of their worry. Like if we
Right.
just stepped beyond that for a moment, that it could be this beautiful place and you could see it too. And so I just thank you for opening this topic. Thank you
Yeah.
for, yeah, this.
That was brilliant, Marie, and it's my pleasure and it's my joy, and that's like you hit it on the head right there. It's that because I see myself in all people and the varying grades of concern or things, you know. Like at one point,
No, I'm
I
gonna do some laundry.
good luck with the laundry, Lauren.
Oh, sorry. Muted. Actually, I'm so excited to use my soap that I made. So this is fun. Okay,
Oh,
I'll
there you
mute
go.
myself.
Homemade soap. Love that. Love that. See, it's a family here. We love this. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, because I try, I can't judge anybody, firstly, you know, because it's anyone could arrive at any conclusion through any processes of their mind. Anyone could be at any point, you know, like I'm here just because of whatever circumstances, but anybody could be at any point in consciousness and it doesn't make any difference. And it's like, you know, if I just see like the tremendous power of one human being is so unbelievable. Like, look what Anastasia did. She's one person and she tries to say herself all the time, I am man, I am man, I'm not above you, I'm not special, I'm not unique. Like, and look how much power she put into the world to create the change. And it's like what one person can do when they take their creative energy in a significant percentage and put it towards creating is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it's like, you know, you really could create the solutions to those problems that you're scared of, you know? Or maybe you won't see it tomorrow, but you'll know that you did something, you know?
I love the idea about the ripple factor because the Abraham Hicks teaches that one person in their power is more powerful than millions who are not. So instead of saying it has to be 49, we got to get the 51st person.
Like
It
bare
is
minimum though, like bare minimum.
one person. And I just, I love it that stayed with me because and look at the ripple effect. I mean, all of us have the potential for our next altercation with someone. Because if someone judged me on my worst day,
Yeah, it's tough.
if they've judged me on my best day, and we're all enmeshed in the stories of what's going on in the world and the this and the that and the what's going to happen next, but it's not being in the present moment. And the present moment is so powerful and so beautiful. And that's, this is such a wonderful topic because I trust that, the ideas that are going to come out of this hour and some that we're going to be together 2 hours, maybe 4, that no. And so I've been on those calls. And but that ideas will come on the next time you see a person in the grocery store and they're, I have this joy about not wearing masks and asking questions in the grocery store. It's kind of my thing now. And to get people laughing, even when you see a mask on, and it's, so it's the little things and what the ripples, and if anybody else has any ideas, it's going to be fun. Thank you.
Well, and Marie knows this. I say it quite often, but I've been saying for years, we're never not creating. So to your point, right. Why not go ahead and move forward? Why not create in this direction instead of that direction? What use is it? Well, there's actually, it's to our detriment to use it for worry, for convincing us and others that there's danger everywhere. When I sit here and look out my window, that all that trauma and drama doesn't even exist unless I look it up intentionally in my computer. It doesn't impact me. So why not take advantage of that, call it a privilege or that freedom, that I'm in a situation where I can take that time and intentionally create something desired instead of just either creating by default, which I've certainly done that in my life in the past, just by reacting to circumstances. You're still creating. When people with Abraham Hicks, it used to make me crazy. They say, so I just started using the law of attraction, and and it's like, you're never not using that. You're always creating. When you have something really awful happen in your life, get it that you created that too. Feel powerful in that moment too, because you did that also. It wasn't something done to you. And so this idea of, we're always creating, even when we're sleeping. What is our frequency and our vibration? What are we resonating with? And how is that showing up? And how it shows up is going to help us understand what we're putting out, right? So we can keep fine tuning based on the circumstances we see around us. And it's hard to not go into Telegram and look at all those channels that Marie sends me so much good stuff. And actually, it's all so interesting, and I love going down a good rabbit hole, trust me.
Sure thing.
But also with the intention of then balancing it out, like to Jim Gale, that was a great interview, by the way. That was very inspiring. Thank you. You go watch his Del Bigtree one too. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, so why not? Like you say, what else do we have to do? We're not going to go to Ukraine and do something. I got in an argument with my 9-year-old grandson, almost 9-year-old, yesterday. He says, well, the Ukraine this. I said, why do you even know about this, first of all? Well, the Russians are bad people. And so I gave him a couple of little tidbits that maybe not. And I finally said, okay, let's just leave it there, since neither one of us really know what we're talking about anyway.
Sure
we don't
thing. My wife says
know
that.
The facts anyway, even if I have my alternative facts, I don't actually know they're true either. So anyway, I love how you started this call, and your examples and your reading from the book, just beautifully thought out and shared. So thank you. I'm on Team Gabriel.
Oh, thank you, Kimberly. You guys are so amazing, man. It's such a pleasure to meet you and Marie, because it's my first time speaking with you both. I believe so. So this is wonderful. And I wanted to say, you're talking about Telegram groups, and that's why in the welcome message to our Telegram group, I have a section that says, if you would like to deeply discuss conspiracy topics, there
Yeah.
are plenty of other groups for that.
That's
Though
great.
we are aware of them, we see too much discussion of conspiracies as a distraction from the collective co-creation process.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, out of all the spaces in the world where people could be gathering and sharing ideas, the Ringing Cedars group is the last place to be going down the rabbit hole of all the destruction in the world, you
Yeah.
know, because we are literally the solution, you know. And like what Anastasia says is so powerful. She's like, the glad tidings of the kins domains will spread across the world, and that will stop all the wars. And all that fires in my mind is, we need videos about kins domains. We need people creating kins domains. I have to publish the books. We need to grow the community as much as possible. Like, I'm just on fire. I'm going nuts, you know. I'm like losing my mind of how much I want to do, you know. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just speaking too much. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in, but this is a fun topic.
Well, I went and looked at a piece of property yesterday that the owner is asking $2 million outside of Sedona. And he's actually set it up like a kins domain. Honestly, he's
Wow.
starting a food forest. I asked him if he was familiar with Ringing Cedars. He says, "Oh, you mean Anastasia?" And I said, "Yeah, he's from Australia." And
It's Sedona. He has to have heard of it. Sedona, you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he didn't really touch on it or expound on it at all. And it just fired me up for, we had just come from a winery where the Humane Society had puppies for people to get. And my grandson just went nuts over one and just had to have one. And I finally told him afterwards, I said, how about instead if we look for property and we find that property, and then you could have 3 dogs and chickens and this and that, but let's not put another puppy in your current household in the city. We live in a small town, but
Yeah.
I'm finding now I'm really getting triggered to move in that way. And I have no idea where to even begin looking for land. None. Not what state, I just know I want softness and big old trees and a source of water that's, and so I don't know how to go about even starting that process of searching for, to start a domain. But seeing this property that he's getting it set up to be a food forest and everything in the desert, it felt like, as Abraham would say, driftwood, right? That it's an idea that has begun, and I've touched it and stood on it. And now how do I take that momentum of that potential and lead it to what I want to participate in? So any talk about that I love, but
Have you thought about the climate that you desire?
yeah, it wouldn't be desert. I love it here. I'm in the high desert in Prescott, Arizona, so that's all lots of forests and evergreens, different than Sedona. But
Right.
I want softness. I said to my friend, we were talking about going in on the property together, and I said, you know what, I want to be able to just go barefoot on every piece of my property. I don't want to be on dirt and rocks and stickers and having to wear shoes outside.
I feel that.
So I feel like either the Northwest where I came from, kind of near where Maria is at this point, or I have a son in the Southeast, which I'm not familiar with, and it sounds hot and sticky. But
Kind of hot and sticky, it's true.
I don't know yet. I don't want difficult winters, super difficult winters. Gosh, that makes it sound like the Northwest, doesn't it, Marie? The soft and the. Anyway, I don't want to hog the conversation here, but
No, it's not hogging. I mean, if anybody wants to jump in on anything at any time, remember this is a community thing, or if you just want to sit back and listen, that's cool too. But yeah, I mean, you ever thought about Tennessee? I'm looking at Tennessee, South Carolina.
Yeah, my son would like me to look towards South Carolina because he has in-laws in Georgia that right now they're far from all family, and so he wants to be near more family and wanted me to move closer to be with my grandkids. I grew up in Florida, but I don't know anything about that area.
Yeah, I'm just like looking for something that's as close to perennial spring as possible, but also not being like super not hot or whatever. I'm not a LA guy, for example, too dry.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
you know, and I love the weather, everything except the dryness.
I know when I've spent my parents had bought their farm, their Christmas tree farm in North Carolina, and my dad had 80 acres just outside of Ashland, North Carolina, and it was beautiful. But there's an energy that's very different there for me that felt kind of heavy, but I don't know it. But it's a different
Mhm.
culture, unless you get into the
I'd like to,
ones.
I'd like to jump in here
Oh,
for just.
please, yeah.
Please, Mark.
I said this before, but I'll say it again. I have a whole bunch of friends in a whole bunch of different profoundly esoteric groups. And a number of them have been pointing to Tennessee. And what I said before is that, it's not too far south, so it isn't too sultry and humid, and it's not too far north, so it doesn't get too cold. But also there's this idea among some of them, and I don't want to put too much weight in this, that there are going to be earth changes, and that after the earth changes, Tennessee is going to be one of the best places to be. So Tennessee, Arkansas, they have some of the best soil in the country, and there is a softness to them, and all of that kind of stuff. But I also wanted to talk about the collective, because in my world, everything that everyone does, feels, thinks, every time anyone meditates, everything that everyone, contributes to the collective affects the collective. And so there is that kind of anger and hatred and wanting to destroy the destroyers, coming up with a kind of a similar energy as the destroyers to meet the destroyers with, which to me is counterproductive, because its effect on the collective is hate and anger and the desire to destroy, or at least to punish, or whatever. But that everything we do, it's positive and healing and uplifting and precious in some way or another. And there was a little video that someone put up in Telegram, recently, about the parallel structures that people create that are creative and uplifting and help alleviate the destructiveness and the control and the fear of the old order. So there is that vital, living, collective, huge, unbelievably unfathomable life, that is the sum total of all of us, and the sum total of everything, and everything we can do to add to the positivity and the creativity and the parallel structures, and especially the kin's domains, which is what really is going to save us all. I think goes a long way to nudging the envelope of the collective forward in a positive way that will eventually make war impossible and make invading and killing people impossible, out of fear and the desire to control and to own and all of the rest of it. My 2 cents for the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And I didn't want to jump in immediately because I like to give space for everyone. But Ryan in the chat, right after you were saying that, Mark, Ryan was saying, seriously, draw your kin's domains. Art is manifestation, and even just those bright desires that we hold in our hearts, because creating a kin's domain is man living in the image of God as God intended, and creating beauty and harmony and perfecting the earth is the same way that God took the barren earth and planted the beautiful Garden of Eden. And as we do that, even just the idea to do that is so uplifting for the world. And I think Marie, something you said in the beginning was like, when you have conversations with people, there's kind of these walls, you know, like you're in a space like this and you're having a conversation like this and you feel elated and you feel all these wonderful uplifting feelings, and then you get out to go talk to other people and you feel like you got to put the brakes on the whole thing. And I almost feel like I just take the brakes off, you know. I don't, you know, impose my ideas or my whatever consciousness or whatever on other people. But it's like we do a disservice to everyone when we don't show them at least something of the good that we see, you know. Like I, even in a weird, very mundane level, like I've completely thrown all consideration of what my 2000 Facebook friends think when I share posts about the Ringing Cedars, even though that may sound kind of funny to you guys, because I'm like executive director of this thing here. But a lot of people on my Facebook friends list don't know about that. And I got a lot of family there, and, you know, aunties and uncles and all those people. And I'm just like, whatever, I'm posting about it. Russia, America exchange, education, Shatinan's way, I'm posting about it. Birthing man, bringing birthing children the way that Anastasia talks about it, you know, I'm posting about it. All these things, I don't care. Posting about it now. You know what? If it's weird to you, family member or old friend, then let it be weird. Gabriel's not the same as he was before. You know what I mean? Like, get used to it. But and I don't even care anymore. Just I am who I am. And it reminds me of a part where Anastasia said something to Vladimir, and she says, you're not saying this or you're not doing this because you're afraid of presenting yourself before God. You know, she said, you're afraid of presenting yourself before God as you are. And I thought about that for a long time. And I'm like, am I afraid of being who I fully am in front of everyone? You know, of saying what I think, of standing for what I stand for in front of everyone, my family who will judge me, my old friends who will be completely perplexed, everybody. And I've gotten to a point where it's like so much better to just come 1000% from the soul than to live any other way, you know. Sorry guys, I'm real fired up. But I know Lauren has had her hand up here. So Lauren.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that about talking to other people. And I just found that ever since this whole panini, which is my new name for it because it makes me laugh, since the post panini world, everything that we talk about with Kins domains actually resonates on a much more relatable level with people, because they experienced the lockdown, they experienced the food shortages or the threat of, and they're still, you know, experiencing a lot of chip supply chain breakdown. And even regardless your political views and your state of awakening, people are just relating more to this, like, oh yeah, that's a good idea to just like be self-sustainable. And you know, a lot of people are wrapped up in the climate change fear too, but even they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. And everyone who's wrapped up in the conspiracy rabbit holes are like, that's a good idea. So I just feel like now everything's much more relatable for people than it was before, when it was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. You go off and go live in nature, like a little wild thing. Sure, if you want that. But now more people are like, yeah, I could want that too.
Mm-hmm. Just want to give other people a chance to jump in.
You know, I love Kimberly was just reading. She reads faster than me, and she's on book 6 and I'm on book 3. And she was reading at book 6 about that the dormant ones. What does she call herself?
Vedrus.
The sleeping Vedrus.
Yes, and it's been such a delight. I've been putting the Koya dancing together for the goddesses, and the last time we danced, we embodied our Kins domain. And this, I just feel like this last playlist and the next dance that we'll be doing is all about awakening this dormant feeling. So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, Gabriel, about, the walls, and speak anyway, even if you see the walls. And that has been something that, that is I feel like that is that awakening in myself to say, if I speak that one, instead of thinking that I'm going to get rejected, instead of thinking I'm going to get yelled at, is just to speak it anyway.
Right.
And so
At a certain point, it's like anything that's worth saying will be met with some degree of, rejection or unacceptance. And it, like, I don't know if you guys are into this as much as I am, but I'm really big on, the Bible and the life of Jesus. And, Jesus was the most bold spoken person ever. He was unapologetic about anything. And he always took a powerful stance on everything he spoke about in front of everyone. It did not matter. Like, he was the most powerful speaking person you would imagine, and he'd stand in the face of the greatest powers of his time, the Pharisees or whoever, and would call them liars and thieves and sinners and stuff, and not to say, accusing people of these kinds of things is the solution, but he had reason. It was contextual. He did it for a purpose. But it's like Anastasia says, what do we have to be ashamed of? Who does it? Like, is someone's opinion more valuable than my desire to create a kins domain and fill the world with love and harmony and beauty? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what my mom thinks or my dad or my cousins or my sisters or whoever. Like, I know what I'm doing is right fundamentally, and God is proud of me. You know what I mean? And like, I'm just gonna scream it from the rooftops because I don't care. Life is short. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I feel like
Sorry,
this
guys.
circles back very well to what we were talking about before about talking about problems or solutions. Because I feel like when you talk about the problems, like, oh, did you know about this political like angle or that political angle? That's what creates walls for people. But when we talk about the solutions, they don't need to build a wall for that, because they're not, if we talk about problems, they're like protecting themselves and their beliefs through this wall. But solutions, like, oh, they don't feel the need to defend their views. They can just kind of like, oh, like, that's what you're working on for you, and that's a good idea.
Right.
Wow, that's really great. That's a really good point.
Coming full circle here.
Right.
I'm taking your panini and running with it.
Yeah.
Panini, I love it
Maria
too.
and I have been calling this the time of the corona, the time of our crowning, that it's applicable if you think of it as far as stepping into our
Coronation.
royal nature, right? And really becoming, face the innermost royal nature in all. I'm not sure if that was a friend of mine or if that's from
That's beautiful.
Well, what the word crown means is sovereignty.
There you go.
So it's
so
like
they're
we're all
actually
taking our
helping
individual
us.
crowns and putting
That's
them
right.
on again, because they told us that only certain people were allowed to wear the crown.
And it reminds me, Lauren, of in when Anastasia is describing the Vedarus wedding rite, she says that the husband and the wife, they crown themselves in the face of the Creator, you know,
Yay.
and no one else puts the crown on their head, and no one has that authority except God and themselves.
Yeah, I always thought, whenever I looked at wedding pictures, I always thought it was weird that, like, here's your most sacred moment, and there's some guy like right in the middle of your picture.
Yeah, you don't even know the guy.
Sometimes it's a friend, or sometimes it's someone who's close to you, but oftentimes it's just some guy. And
Right.
what's he doing there right in the middle when you're like kissing on your, yeah, it just always seemed weird to me.
And oh man, I want to remember, I wanted to say something. We were talking about like speaking and getting people involved, and I don't remember, guys. If you want to continue. I don't remember, but it was something like speaking about the positive and the solutions gets people interested, rather than it doesn't put up walls, like speaking
Yeah,
about the
draws
problems.
them in to their it's an invitation to talk versus like a confrontational thing. Because yeah, sometimes you have to analyze, like, okay, how much of what I'm talking about is a person kind of open to receiving, or like when my friend calls it, it's like, that sensitivity for when someone's cup is full, even if they're open to hearing about your whatever conspiracy topic that you're bringing up, but they only have like a cup that can only be filled so much, and then you got to stop. But with solutions, it's like, it's more easy to, that cup is much bigger.
It's probably empty to start with. Lots of
Right?
room.
Yeah, most people don't know what to do. So their problems cup is overfilling and their solution cup is empty. And so
Well, and we're taught to be problem oriented, like Jim Gale said, right? And it's so what is the draw to that? There's some magnetism to somebody comes at you and says they have a problem, and you're like, go on. You know, it's so
Yeah.
to hear what is the problem, and it's just it's in our nature anymore to seek that out. That we find it very compelling and interesting. And
I actually did a very in-depth training I did a training last year to become a relationship coach, and one of the things that really trained to do is like the listening part, because if someone you're trying to help, you know, they need their problems to be heard. They don't really need solutions. They just want to be heard, but you can make them feel heard very simply just by saying, I hear you, and just by repeating something back to them. And then they're free to to be open to ideas coming in. But until they feel heard, they're just going to keep complaining and complaining. And, it's very easy to just kind of like, okay, yeah, I hear you. That sucks. Like, wow, so empathizing with their problem without adding to that conversation.
Could someone explain the panini reference to me? I don't know it.
So it's just another word for the pandemic, because everyone's like, oh, the pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. So I saw a friend using it that was like the post-panini world, and I just like, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna take that too.
It's like BC and AD at this point. You know what I mean? Pre-pandemic,
silly word
post-pandemic. Yeah.
So it makes us laugh about it instead of this serious pandemic.
I call it the plandemic or the scamdemic, but I like panini. That one's fun.
It's
but
something anybody can laugh at without, those other words apply.
Right. They imply some other things.
Negative things.
Yeah.
So we're just be
I
like,
see what you mean.
use humor to dissolve. Like, look, we're not scared of that thing anymore.
Right. The panini. That's pretty funny.
The great panini.
The great. It's true.
Panini, like someone asked how it's spelled. Like it's like the Italian sandwich is what the word is.
PANNINI.
Something like that.
And it's like, there's no greater weapon than humor, right? It's like you disarm the evil forces or whatever you'd like to call them by laughing at them. Like how big and scary is your problem now that I'm laughing in your face? Right? It's like that's a beautiful thing.
I wanted to just jump in and say something off
Please.
of that. The cup is full. And yeah, I think it's really important to recognize when somebody's cup is full. This happened to me a few days ago, talking to somebody about, all the war and everything, and could definitely tell that the cup was full, could definitely tell that a bridge was about to be burned, and like, that's the area where I don't want to get to that area. And so it really is an art to learn how to talk to people. And Anastasia, she says quite frequently that she's always looking for the right words. She's always looking how to say it better, and I like that she takes a responsibility for it being a two-party thing. Like, it's not just that the person can't understand, it's also that the person delivering the information is not doing it in a way that the other person can understand. And so that really helps me to just humble myself and just step back and be like, okay, where is our common ground? She starts often by bringing Vladimir back to the very beginning. I don't know if she does this often, but bringing him back to the very beginning and saying, let's just agree. Do you believe in an intelligence, that there's some sort of mind out there? And then she's like, okay, let's agree on what that term is. And then they call it God. And then it goes from there. And so giving a solid foundation I mess up on that a lot. Like, I assume that the person I'm talking to actually is more on the same page than I am, or so just asking the right questions, it really is an art. It's a charismatic art to be able to carry those conversations forward. But it's really beautiful. And she also says that God is free too, to give hints to whom he wants to give hints to. And so he's not always going to answer exactly the way somebody thinks he's going to answer, or he doesn't have to answer if he doesn't want to, based on what they know and on their consciousness. So it's just like being attentive. So like when grandfather tames the prostitute, you know, and Vladimir is like, whoa, how did you do that? By looking into their soul, by like really looking at them, like Lauren, you're saying, like really seeing them. I don't know how to do that yet, but I think it's really cool, and I would love to get to that point. But just through that, like that listening, that open heart, that just like that sending them like the eye contact, the eye gazing. If any of you guys have ever done eye gazing, it can be really connective. So I appreciate where this conversation is going, and I'm just like always bringing it back to where is the responsibility of both, and just like that, like, you know, Marie, like you were saying, that dance. Even in Qigong, they have a concept of the dance. So when two people are standing next to each other or face to face, and they're kind of dueling in a way, there's one person can be too strong where they'll like kind of go like this, the other person will go back, but then if they're too strong, they kind of go like this. And then, or if the other person doesn't accept their energy, it kind of goes past them, and then the dance stops, the conversation stops. But then if you go like this and the other person like is bendable, then they can give it back. And then if, you know, so it's kind of this thing of like, where is my energy going? You don't want to push them over so that they topple over, you know? So I love these analogies and these visuals. Yeah.
That's so right, what you said about, how many times must Anastasia be like, oh, Vladimir's cup is getting full. How do I?
Yeah.
I think that gets into Elizabeth on the goddess call, the Koya. You talked about, what was that? What it was? We talked about the purity of thought, and I would like to know more about that if anybody feels well versed in explaining that or what that looks like. But it seems like that's something that goes along with all of this, that when we are able to communicate, and when we are in a place of purity of thought, then we have the words that have the right, what you call tone and vibration to them, so that that person can hear it and they can experience what we're sharing. I'm guessing those two go together.
It reminds me of in book 3 where Anastasia is speaking with the young sick girl who lives in the remote Siberian taiga village on the river, and she goes and she is you know, the girl's mother has gone off to the city, Moscow or something, and left her there in this dilapidated, decaying village. And she is, you know, Anastasia basically just, you know, the guy who's telling the story, Alexander or something, he's like, the words that she chose were not particularly special in themselves, but it was the motivation behind why she said those words. And, you know, the order of the words that she chose was perfect because of how her intention was. Like, she told this child the bitter truth about her mother leaving and trying to find success in the city, and she was unable to. And if she came back and saw this girl sick and helpless, she would be even more sad. And you know, the emphasis was laid on her reasons for saying that, you know, like she came from such a good, sincere place of wanting to do nothing but lift this girl up, you know, and enrich and empower her life. And I find that to be the case with me. Like, that story taught me a lot about communicating with people, just thinking about only wanting the best for them. You know, I only want to interact with you and share things with you that are for the best, even if you're mad at me right now, you know, or whatever. And it's because really, like, man in the image of God is benevolent towards everyone and caring and understanding and like infinitely patient, you know, and infinitely understanding because he's in everyone's hearts, and he understands us deeper than we know ourselves. And it's like, the more we can be like that, you know, trying to put ourselves in the heart of the other person, I feel like that gives you that purity, you know, like that desire to just be benevolent makes you pure and will put your words like in the right order, you know, and you try your best, you know, maybe you mess up and you don't say the right thing, but try again later. You know, even Anastasia didn't have the right words a few times. And
yeah, sweetie.
anyway, Eliyahu, good to see you. We love seeing you. But yeah, that's all I had to say about it, if anyone wants to jump in.
I definitely messed up. I messed up this weekend. And I think, first of all, I want to thank every single person for sharing. Every person, I was like, yes, yes, yeah. Every single one of you had such a beautiful thing to share, and you're all speaking to my heart. I'd love to share what happened because, yeah, we went to a friend's house, my partner and I, and this is a long-term friend who was naturally a Vedrus, like total like hobbit, living off the land and like loving the neighbors and feeding the neighbors and growing flowers that were like this tall, sunflowers, and like beautiful veggie plantations. And you can see the plants loved him. He loved the plants, and all the neighbors would stop at that garden and revel in the garden and revel at him. And he was like talking to everyone, and you can see this garden was uniting the town. This garden was, it was just a small garden, and we lived with him. He was he was a true Vedrus. He was a Vedrus, pure, has never read the books. He just was that. And then we went to, this was many years ago that we lived with him and all this happened, and we went to go visit him in his new home. Oh yeah, it's like a lot of stuff coming up here. And he's going down a road that we're talking about here, much like you spoke about, Gabriel, about this woman who emailed you. He's going down this road, and it's really intense to see very strong degrees of psychosis, of mania, of messiah complex. I would say severe depression, like some pretty strong anxiety. And when my Stefan and I went, it was intense to see this. We were like, oh my God, like it was really intense, to see the purity of his soul, like take such a strong turn. And I couldn't, for me personally, there was something that was really like extra bothering me, extra very much on my heart. And there was at one point, I was listening to these conversations. All the conversations were revolved around mania and like phobia, just being like really, really, really afraid. And at one point on the table, I just couldn't take it anymore. My communication just came out, and I was like, life is not all about this. There's so much good in the world. Are you looking at the solutions? Like, are you seeing the incredibleness of the world? And my heart started beating, and I felt everybody's heart beating because everybody in the household is thinking in this same way. And I saw this person's look in their eyes, and I could see full-fledged hypnosis. So this type of effect that we're seeing on the news and through these wars and stuff, like it truly does hypnotize people. And it plays with like the deepest hidden traumas of people they don't even know they have. And my heart was beating. I was like, why am I getting so impacted by this? Anyways, long story short, we ended up leaving. And when he came in to hug us, he was having tears in his eyes. So you can see that the purity of him was in there and was like wanting so much to get out, but he's like hypnotizing it down, and then the next day my heart was still beating, and I realized, it's because of someone that we had introduced this man to. We had brought a certain friend into his life that was the main influence of this way of thinking and being. So my partner and I went through a really big process of realizing, what, we were like this too at one point. We were hypnotized too at one point. We were feeding into this too at one point. We're seeing this happen with people we love, and it was, it's an enormous process. And then I got a message from Megan. Megan is our beloved community member, literally in the midst of this.
Love
and
you,
to
Megan.
feel the contrast, everyone, from the hypnosis, psychosis, pain, to like this community. It was unbelievable to feel on an expansion energy level. Someone was mentioning strangling. It was Marie, right? Worry and strangling, like to literally feel that energetically, and also in my body, the difference. It's huge. This is enormous. Like, this is much bigger than I realized. And then I also realized that Stefan and I were in that home for the weekend to anchor, to be like a real reminder, just by being ourselves, you know, just by being ourselves. I don't have to come in and be like, Kins domains and like, I don't have to start throwing, just by being, and you can see it. They saw us come in and they wanted to know, they wanted to talk with us. They wanted to be around us, just us being who we are, you know. And some of you said the power of one person. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's pretty powerful. I want to thank everyone. I had a lot to a lot to process. It's no surprise we're talking about this now. It's a pretty pertinent subject at a really important time, you know? Yeah.
Can I say something, or does anybody else
Please.
want to jump in? You know, that last thing, it's like you mentioned not even using your words, just your presence. And it's a thing, because sometimes even with our energy, we can like close up and not want to share that too, you know, even just like silently we can close up. But I always think about this part in the Bible where, you know, it says, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but put it on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house, you know. And it's like, whether you're speaking or whether you're not speaking, your presence and your consciousness will affect people. Like there is a story of Paramhansa Yogananda, who I have right here. And one day he's just like eating in a diner somewhere in like Los Angeles. And so a woman who eventually became his disciple was driving by, and she was in the street or whatever, and with her husband, and she sees Yogananda in the window just eating. And she turns to her husband and says, "Look, that's the most spiritual man I've ever seen." You know, she wasn't even in the same room as him. And it's just like his light was shining so strongly that it affected, you know. And that's incredible, Ariane, that like, you know, you were able to go back and do that for your friend, you know, and remind him, because it really is. It's like all the positive dreams of creation get buried under worries and fear. And that part of that's the most vital part of ourselves, is that creator of benevolence and goodness everywhere, you know. And it's like, when that gets buried, we suffer. And you know, not to say that you shouldn't be aware of things, but Anastasia says everything is balance, you know. Like there's a story in book 4 where the creator, you know, God is talking, the energies of the universe are dialoguing with God, and they're saying, you know, if you keep creating in your dreams with all this energy, you're going to explode. You're not going to be able to contain all this. And how are you going to continue creating like the universe and all the things that you're creating? And then the energies of the universe start telling him, like, there's the energy of doubt. You know, doubt will take away your it'll stop your creation. And he's like, well, when confidence and doubt are balanced in equal measure, it facilitates exactitude, you know. And it's maybe some, I don't know what I'm trying to get out here, but it's all a balance, you know what I mean?
Ooh, Gabriel, I kind of want to like pick up from where you left off, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah, so exactitude and beatitude, so creating a beautiful world. This is really something that I've sat with a lot and dear to me, because what God did in this case is what he's asking us to do. So he took all of the unfathomable energies of the universe, the doubt and the confidence, and he balanced them all into one. And what is that one? That one is us. Like that's the physical form of us, and that's what created love. So love is the space that's created when all of the energies are in balance. And so here we are in these human bodies, and it is our job to balance all of these energies within us. And when that happens, then we create love. That's when we walk around. That's when people see the light from us, when we're sitting and eating and we see the light from, you know, like the Yogananda story. And so whenever I'm feeling like where doubt or fear or resentment or something will gain ascendancy within me, sometimes I have to convince myself for a second, like, what is my job here? Like, I'm here to balance these things. Like, I have the strength to do this because I know who I am. I'm a princess in my father's kingdom. Like, this is my job. It's time I start acting like one, you know? And so like, I sit there and I'm like, okay, here you are. Resentment, let's go to dinner. What do you have to say? Let's sit down at the round table and it's like, tell me what you have, and just hold it like a baby. Open up the door to your home and just be like, I welcome you. What is it that you have to say? And that's the way that I at least can balance these things. And then from that, what happens is that I just start to relax. And that relaxation, I'm able to feel the joy and that confidence, then that clarity that comes with that. And from there, then I just make better decisions because I'm clear. And so it's just this really beautiful process of like balancing. Yeah, that's what came from that.
It's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. This is Ilyahu in Santa Cruz. And if I may jump in, I'd like to share that during this past week, last weekend for Michelle, it's my wife, my beloved wife, and on Tuesday for me, we were both bereft with the death and disaster that's occurring in the Ukraine. And we were holding each other and crying and realizing that in addition to what we were feeling for the beloveds, you know, in our human family in the Ukraine, there's also all this that was coming up within us from our DNA, being of Jewish, lineage, and pogroms that occurred, and having, on my side of the family, lost family members in the Holocaust, and the history of anti-Semitism, throughout a long time. And what I came to realize is that in all this coming up, it was coming up and it was divinely guided and divinely moved for this to come up this week for us, so that we could feel it and experience it, be with it, not try to push it down or push it away, and then feeling it and being with it, and just through the natural love of the divine love and divine grace, all of that just being released and transmuted as the divine will transmute it in whatever ways God, or however you choose to refer to God as, that is a process that is divinely embraced with great love. And so I have great appreciation for it. Yeah. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to share that with you.
Of course. And we appreciate it. I feel like somebody here may want to jump in before I jump in. Unless no. All right. I just love to keep the space open, but yeah, I agree with you, and one thing that this made me think of is like, to whatever degree anyone experiences the events going on in the world, like, what am I trying to say? It's beautiful. Like, some people could see events like that happening, and they don't feel an emotion that moves them to tears, but then some people will feel great compassion and overflowing love for the people there, and that sadness, and like all of that is valid and real, and like it's beautiful, like, just to be able to feel for our fellow human beings in that way, in that depth, and think of what it's like in their shoes, so it kind of reminds me, like, even though I'm saying not to focus on the reality, not the reality, but the negative situations happening in the world, it doesn't exclude the fact that there are real life situations happening. People are really going through it, and to keep an expansive heart that feels for the suffering of our brothers and sisters. There is this quote that says, I'm just paraphrasing, but it's like, I could have been you had the wind blown slightly differently. You know what I mean? And if the wind would have just blew a little bit differently, I'd be you right now, and in a way I am you, and really there's nothing really different about me than you. It's just circumstances changed a little bit, and we could all be in Ukraine right now, and this could be a different thing, or like, a lot of our Russian friends are getting undue vitriolic things directed towards them because they're simply Russian. Like, being Russian right now is a crime to some people, and I don't know where I'm really going with that, but anyway, I'm glad you guys see where I'm coming from about this positive creation thing, because it's, you know, especially in this group, it's like we're the people who are really going out and creating that lasting change that Anastasia talked about, like the glad tidings of kins domains, you know, like how many thousands of lives can each of us touch just by being ourselves and going and manifesting our dreams, right? I don't know.
Well, that
Yeah.
to-
Okay. Oops. Go ahead, Kimberly.
I've been talking. You go ahead. Go ahead. Is that Jamie?
Okay. Shoot, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So this has been quite a life here. I feel like we have to be like really developed souls to be here. This is the most difficult planet to incarnate on. So I study a lot of Dolores Cannon. It makes sense now that just being here is changing everything. Like for me, it was really difficult to stay grounded here. I'm like, man, it feels really bad here. Like, and so I do a lot of nature hikes and walking in nature to like bring heaven to earth. I feel like that's my mission here. And this whole kins domain, that's the way it was meant to be. It was not meant to be enslaved. We're not meant to be enslaved by economics or whatever it is. We're meant to be free, and it's supposed to be Garden of Eden, happy and joyous and free. And then, yeah, so this has been something I've been working in my whole life to. So I want this really bad, to make this like heaven on earth, and to be for my spirit to be comfortable here, as I know we all come from source. And I remember source, and at source it was like wonderful. It's wonderful to be there. You're like, yeah, this is awesome. We get to play and sing, dance. Woo, yeah. It's like super high vibes. There's no duality there. And then you come here and you're like, oh my God, war and all this crap like thrown at you, like whoa. And my spirit like practically jumped out of my body for like a lot of the time. I'm like, no, I know I have to be here grounded. And so you have to use every single tool in the book to like stay grounded here, because I'm supposed to be here and manifesting this heaven on earth. And so yeah, so it makes sense to hold. That's why it's been so critical to go within and meditate. And I just like keep beating that drum. Gotta pray, gotta focus. Like in the morning I'll do that focus, like visualize. Yesterday I had a really good session. I don't know, something about the energies getting amped up. It's an incredible session. I could feel it like it was already done. The kins domain, visualize that every single day, because I know how important it is to focus there and shut out the news. As I know, that's just the dark energy wants us to focus there, and they want their powers, but we're like, nope, we're taking our power back, and we're going to focus on this heaven on earth. That's what we want. And yeah, that's our power. And thank God we're here and we're taking that power back. Thanks.
Amen. That's powerful. Can I jump in and say something, guys? I know I've been talking a lot, but I'm really fired up about something you said here, Jamie. When you're talking about it's my mission right now to be here and manifest heaven on earth, right? It makes me think that Anastasia like really showed the creation story that she talks about in book 4 is so powerful, and God creating the universe and then dreaming of the earth, the water, the flowers, the birds, all the creatures, putting all that here, all the fruits and everything that exists, and then dreaming of man, and then putting man there to enjoy that beautiful paradise endlessly. You know, she described it as a garden between summer and spring with the fruits of autumn, you know, just perpetually all the time. And you know, to sit and enjoy, and then Adam then having Eve, and then, well, not having, but you know, Eve being created and then being with Adam, and then them giving birth to their first child, and God being involved in that, and then God saying that, you know, the purpose is co-creation and joy for all from its contemplation. And that is really the archetype of our life. That's the archetype of us, of our true existence and our purpose here. is to be exactly like how God was. God envisioned the earth in his mind, and he said, here, I'm going to create this beauty. That's what we do when we take that 2.5 acres and we plan that design. We are like God creating a perfect garden. And then we say, okay, I've created this garden first. God created the world first before he manifested man, you know? So you create the garden, and then you say, okay, I'm going to come in with my beloved and then give birth. And we're literally following the creation story of how God created the universe and how he created us. And we're literally acting like him. We're behaving in his image, you know? And it's so powerful what Anastasia gave to us, because that's how we manifest heaven on earth. That's how we like fulfill our highest purpose, And I love to think about that, man. It's just so, I don't know. It's just so, when you think about my purpose is here to create harmony and joy and beauty, co-creation and joy for all from its contemplation, right? And what's interesting is like in the Veda Rus wedding rites, when the wife is answering the questions from like her mother, it's the parents are questioning the couple, and you know um, the wife is asked the question, who is he, who here is worthy enough to wear the crown? And she turns to her husband and she says, he whose thought is so fine to create a splendid like reality and joy for everyone all around. You know what I mean? Like I hope you guys see what I'm getting at, but that it is our destiny to create splendid things and joy all around us, and we are living in the image of God when we do that, you know. So anyway, it's just amazing. It is your purpose to be here right now, manifesting heaven on earth, and like I can't imagine how happy God is to see each one of us with these thoughts. You know what I mean? He's like, look, my children are waking up. Like, anyway.
And we can see it through, oh, sorry.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Gabriel, and for deepening it within each one of us and all of us, not only those of us who are on the call, but also everyone within the Ringing Cedars community who is hearing and feeling that on the inner plane levels of being. And also hearing that and feeling that on the inner planes of being, then that's just pouring forth from our community to everybody who's read and are reading the Ringing Cedars books, and from all of them to everybody on the planet. And on the inner plane levels, everyone is taking that in. Regardless, it's just like the ocean. On the surface of the waves, there are storms and the waves are bouncing up and around. And on the very, very, very deep level, there's this steadiness and this peace and this being of life that is just so immense. And that's what is happening here. And I just want to bring voice and feeling to that and acknowledgement of that, because I really feel that's so important for us, for me to do. I speak for myself, for me to do. And I'd like to share a blessing with you all, blessing prayer,
Please.
If I may. Blessed are we, blessed are you, blessed am I, blessed are we, being the light, being the love of all that is, drawing forth from within the wisdom of the one and co-creating through contribution what's needed in this new season for the birthing and being of this new Gaia, this new earth. Blessed are we co-creating in community and gratefully receiving the abundant love and nurturance of all that is. My prayer for you is, may your eyes shine with the light of the sun, the moon, and the stars. May your face be radiant like the brightness of the noontime sky. May your heart and lips speak and sing your soul's inner wisdom. May the world you create and live in be the world of your highest aspirations, arising from your most delicious and auspicious dreams. May your visions blossom and bloom divinely as they are meant to be. May your hopes and dreams reach full fruition within your lifetime and touch every generation to come. May you be blessed with deeper understanding and wisdom and with great compassion in your heart. May your heart's love and your soul's insight uplift and delight. This is my prayer for you now and always.
Wow.
Thank you.
Eliyahu, thank you, brother.
You're so welcome. Blessed be. Blessed be.
That was beautiful. Wow. You wrote that, I presume.
Yes,
Yeah. Divinely inspired. Beautiful.
thank you. Feel blessed
Beautiful.
to have been able to write it. Indeed.
Yeah. They say the instrument is blessed by what flows through it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed.
Wow. Ariane, I know before Eliyahu shared the blessing that I felt like you were going to speak. I don't know if you still have something on your mind.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eliyahu, for sharing another beautiful poem. He's a phenomenal poet and writer, and he shares occasionally up on the community network. So if it calls Eliyahu, please do that. That was absolutely beautiful.
Sure, I will. I will.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Something I wanted to echo what you were talking about, Gabriel, about this gift that we're here to share and we're here to co-create on this earth. And, you know, when I hear your words and I think of the simplicity of it, it is so freeing. There's an incredible sense of freedom that comes with, hey, I'm here to build a garden and live unified with the earth. Like I'm here to create a thriving, beautiful garden and domain for my family members and for this like living, breathing ecosystem. There's such a beautiful simplicity to it. And it does a few things in my mind. I could see how complex we've made everything, you know. There's so much complexity to it, even in the spiritual communities, like so complex, when really we can focus on really like this, the bare bones terrestrial simpleness of it. And also what I think of is, wow, God loves us for eternity. God's like, here, gods and goddesses, like be on this terrestrial, incredible, be on this planet and create paradise in the most simple way. And it's all highly intelligent. Those flowers are highly intelligent. That garden's highly intelligent. It's going to be by its design flourishing and intelligent and providing for you. You know, I don't have to go and strain and like put all this effort to bury that, you know, put the seed and then eat the carrot. And no, it's just doing its thing and it's thriving and it's beautiful and it's incredible. It's paradise on earth. Paradise is earth. You know, heaven is earth. It's here. And to bring spirituality through the earth in this way is one of the most refreshing and I would say freeing. You know, it's so freeing. And speaking to our friends this past weekend and saying that, like, hey, gardens, earth, basics, you can see a lot of it was going off, you know, but I also saw there was something getting planted. There was something getting planted, hence the reason why they were crying when they were giving us a hug. So it's like such a breath of fresh air. I find this community is breathing the simplicity back, the memory of simplicity back into people. You know, it's so simple. Yes, it can be that simple. And yes, it can be that heavenly through simplicity, you know?
Well, Ariane, that's what I wanted to comment actually along that vein when you were speaking earlier about when you're just being, you don't have to convince somebody or have to talk about the domains to feel like you're doing your part in helping the creation by sort of forcing your view and even if it's uplifting to you, somebody else. And there's such a feeling of relief in exactly that, backing away from the need to, you know, convince or feel like we have to do something really proactive to feel like we're on track, but making it so simple as that, right? And that when we realize just by being in our highest, I mean, being a part of this community, I have said for so long, I'm tired of saying it, and Marie's probably tired of hearing it, but it has not made sense to me for all of my adult life that we came here as souls to earn a living, to pay for things. You know, most people working at things they don't even like, right? It's just never made sense. And now to find this community that is all in agreement. I mean, yes, they're probably not totally in agreement with the way I look at it, but that there is this purpose to be and to create from essence, not having to be out in the material world, so involved in that mentally. And but just really struck me, you know, when you were speaking earlier, Ariane, about that, there was a moment of just relief at wait, that reminder that we don't have to convince anybody of anything. We just, you know, we have that awareness in ourselves. It's, I think Jamie, speaking to something Jamie or Elizabeth was saying, that, you know, to be aware enough to take advantage of perhaps a negative emotion or thought or a road we're going down, and to utilize it to expand further in the direction we want to go. Gosh, to have that as a main focus instead of fixing the world or somebody else, it does feel easy and simple and like relief, you know.
That's beautiful. Yeah, simplicity is so key. Like, I can relate to the a lot in the spiritual communities. Things get like so serious and so complicated, and really everything I've been learning is just like, no, like, just like, we just need to like dance and sing and play and be more fun with our spirituality. Because people are always like, oh, I'm trying to be spiritual. It's like, no, like, we came here to be human. We're going to be spiritual, all of us, for sure. We're going to be back in that zone. We know we need to experience this human life now.
Yeah, it reminds me of in book 4 in the 3 prayers chapter, where Anastasia is talking about God's word to man. God is saying, be happy, my son. That's all I ask of you. Only be happy, right? And it's like God didn't say, I need you to meditate 18 hours a day. I need you to offer your things at the altar, and I need you to perform this ritual, that ritual, to cleanse your chakras 4 times a day, and to light a candle next to your bed before bedtime. You know what I mean? Like it was be happy, and those things can include, you can have happiness as a result of those things, but it was so simple, and it reminds me of the Jim Gale quote that he shared in the interview, where he was brought to tears when he heard the Bill Mollison quote that though the problems of our world grow increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple, and because it's like, why would God create a complicated creation for us to navigate? No, create beauty everywhere around you. Use your inspired dreams of creation to manifest more and more perfection in the universe. Give birth to things in joy, like continue creating harmony endlessly. Learn from what you do, continue perfecting it. Like, so simple, like, so. And that's why Anastasia's words, compared to anything else throughout history, there's nothing like anything she's ever given, like what she's given anywhere. The path to freedom has been an internal thing, final liberation, like nirvana or whatever you would want to call it. Maha Samadhi, or like, whatever stages of samadhi there are, and all those things, and very unattainable, difficult spiritual goals that only a few people get, becoming free like the Buddha or something, or free like the saints in the Himalayas or whatever. It's exceedingly difficult. Not everyone can do it, but everyone can plant a garden and live in joy with their family and experience the creator in their heart and souls immediately, and live that way forever. You know what I mean? It's so simple, and
yeah, and from everything I've been hearing from members who are further along that path, is that the land will teach you then those higher spiritual practices of meditation and of just, becoming one.
It all unfolds.
And a lot of, from what I understand, a lot of those are very masculine forms of attaining enlightenment, whereas the feminine form is more based around feeling. And,
right.
So that just feeling pure joy, I think we're bringing that into balance with, as all those traditional Buddhas and enlightened masters took a very masculine path. So now we can explore this other one.
and I don't want to disrespect it because I've got a photo of Paramahansa Yogananda right here next to Anastasia, and he came and he taught Kriya Yoga in the West and the science of meditation and all those things. And, I count myself among his disciples. But, we're so lucky to have been given this super accessible path, like it's, I don't know. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. It's so
Totally,
easy.
yeah. I get
know?
it. But I just wanted to chime in. I had to pop off the call for a little bit because I just got a call back that I just confirmed the place that I'm going to Kauai on Thursday. And the guy that we used a couple of years, right at the start of the Panini, we moved on to this off-grid permaculture farm. And it was just like, oh my God, it's like, I think it was 5 acres. And we had a 20-year-old food forest, and it was very educational. So I'm going back to that property. I just confirmed the call, and it's just, everything's just been flowing so gracefully. I was, everyone's like, oh, it's so hard to find a place in Kauai. And I'm just like, oh, let me call my guy. Oh yeah, let me do that. Oh, tickets, let me get that. And he's like, oh yeah, that's exactly when the people are moving out. You can come on that day. Just all flowing. And we're just super excited to be back on that property and learning more with all the projects he's got going on. So that'll be fun. But
That's
then, yeah,
exciting.
it's gonna be a lot more off grid because there's service there, but my phone doesn't really work only in one corner of the farm. So hopefully I'll still be able to connect in with you guys.
That's so exciting, Lauren. Congrats. Glad you're able to go back.
You're so inspiring, Lauren. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to give a little heads up to Lauren. It's really inspiring seeing the trajectory and to see how there's so much guiding you. Like you could feel it off your process as you share it. What a joy it is. It feels like this beautiful, exhilarating ride, and it's not fast. It's like a beautiful, beautiful grounded pace. Really beautiful to see you. And it's such a joy to watch all of this progress. There's a lot of progress. I mean, the whole community has been taking off. Think about it. We had the birthing event not that long ago. We had this incredible event. Unreal. I can't even believe it was. There's so much going on. And then the education right Russian exchange was literally yesterday.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And there's more on the horizon. I didn't tell you yet, Gabriel, but there's like a couple
There's some things going on.
Things I want to throw by. Yeah.
Okay.
Such a great time to celebrate. So thank you, Lauren, for sharing your process with us like this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I hope we'll still be connecting on all the proposal stuff and things that we're working on. I'm so excited about that too. Amazing.
Ooh,
and yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, speaking of the proposal stuff, I saw that group go on Telegram, but I wanted to be a part of it, and I don't know if it has started yet or if it's been created.
You can join. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, is it on the community platform?
No, it's just on Telegram.
Oh, okay. Just so I can
I'll add you to it.
Well, thanks.
I saw Lauren. You sent me a message. I was behind on schedule because of the event yesterday, so just didn't get to my things yet.
And at the same time, I've got the call coming in to confirm my spot on the farm. I've got you guys here, and I also missed a call with the realtor too. So I'm like, everything's coming in. It's like I guess realtors, they're pretty good about just like bugging you constantly, but I've been kind of like, I don't know what to tell her.
They're great at follow-up.
But now I'm like, I know what to tell her. I'm working on this thing. Like I need her guidance in how to create this proposal. So I'm excited actually, because it's been this kind of thing that's been like, kind of scary feeling about like scary but exciting, but like, I got to step up my container to be able to hold space for this, not just I'm committing more and more, not just to like, okay, I'm going to make my kin's domain, but to creating a community. And it's just that like kind of scary but exciting feeling of something really big. But all you guys, everything from this community has been supporting me so much to just, like go for it and like talk to people and create the plans and vision it and not be scared to just like, no, I'll just make my own one little bubble. It's like, no, I want a big bubble with everybody in it.
That's amazing. Yeah, you know, it's as we are summoned to greater levels of creation, right? It's we become uncomfortable because we just haven't played in that space, but then we play in that space for a little bit and then it becomes second nature. And then we get summoned to another level and then, you know, that's literally I feel like that's an everyday process with me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm terrified, I'm nervous," and then I do it and I'm like, "Okay, now I'm a master."
And just having the support, knowing that I'm not doing it alone, even if, even if the people I'm talking to aren't going to directly be involved in my little kawaii like land
Yeah.
space, but the fact that other people are actually setting up proposals, talking to, visiting properties and just get it, like, it just makes it feel so much more okay, like I'm not just by myself, and if I can share my wins and I can ask questions about my challenges, it's so supportive. So thank you so much, Gabriel, for everything you've done to create
Yeah.
this community, and everybody for participating at the level that they do. Yeah, I just remember when we were first starting the Telegram chat and starting these calls, it's like it's
Yeah.
blossomed so much more since then.
Yeah. 700 people now on Telegram. I mean, everything has grown so much. I mean, that's why I'm here, you know.
There's so many calls too. It's like so
Yeah.
active.
We've got 4 this week. One on Monday, we've got Wednesday, Thursday, and then I think either Saturday or Sunday. And then, I mean, I've got multiple interviews lined up that aren't on the schedule that people see. And we're like scheduling more events. It's just, you know, and this is, and we're not even that big. You know, but yeah, it's my pleasure and joy to serve. This is why God put me here. That's why I'm alive, is to do what I'm doing, to help wake up the Vaderus souls and bring us all back together. And so this is my joy. But yeah, I mean I forget what I was gonna say. If anybody else wants to jump in. This keeps happening to me. I keep forgetting.
Well, combining Lauren and Ariane, thank you for making the comment that our land will find its way to us, will find us somehow, right? When there's that question of where do you even start looking, that to back up and just hold the intention, draw the domain literally, like somebody mentioned, and
That was Ryan, yeah.
allow for, like, knowing that this property that I saw yesterday has everything except it's too arid for me. So take that visual and the momentum that it has, and allow that I'll meet someone who knows someone who or I'll be traveling and it'll show me, and it will feel clear. I think that it'll, yeah.
I've had this thought for so many years. I haven't found the land where I want to live yet, but this is similar to how I wound up finding my wife, you know, through the Anastasia things. But I've always had the idea, you know, God is omnipresent and God is present in my soul. God is present everywhere throughout the universe, and he's conscious of everything, conscious of every desire in my heart. And if there's a piece of land on this earth that's most suitable for me, God is already present there because he's manifesting it with his consciousness. It wouldn't even exist if he wasn't paying attention to it. And so I just always say, I'm like, God, you know where the right spot is for me. You know my heart, you know my soul, you know, you're already in that spot, you know, and guide me to it, show me the way. And like, I think if we're tuned in, it will be clear when we get there. You know, there was like that story in book 8.1 of the couple. It was like the entrepreneur guy and the woman named Inga, and she read the books, and you know, he was just a regular old entrepreneur. He just wanted to have healthy kids, and they go out to the land and they're driving around villages, and they both get out the car and they're in front of a piece of land, and she says like, this is it, and he's like, yeah, I feel it too, you know. And it's like, because our dreams are they're so divinely inspired, you know, the dream of creating a kins domain, God will help all of us find the right spot. You know what I mean? Like, it's in his best interest. It's in the universe's best interest for all of us to have the right spot, you know? I don't want to sound like I'm naive, but at the same time, there is a force that wants us to succeed with this. You know what I mean? Like, very strongly.
Yeah, I read a line.
Yeah, I highly.
Sorry, just real quick. I read a line, Neville Goddard years ago. He said, desire is the spoken word of God. And so for us to even connect with the desire like that so deeply, that's God's way of saying it's already here for you. It's waiting here. It's so even having that desire tells you that if that is the spoken word of God, that it's already set up. It's good to go. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
Oh no, all good.
You're good, Lauren?
Oh, shoot. Now I'm trying to remember. I'll come back to it.
Cool.
Lauren, I left a message for you in the chat. I'd love it if you'd read it,
Oh,
okay? It's a direct
yes,
message.
I did.
Thanks. Okay, thanks.
Yes, I think I saw, yeah, totally. That's it. Oh, yes. Okay, now I remember what, because like, yeah, you said that feeling of home in Kauai, and I highly recommend that anybody who's looking for, still not decided on where they want to be. So when my partner and I finished reading the books, and we had this amazing experience catalyzed with the psychedelic mushrooms, and we had this vision of Kauai, and it's at that point neither of us and I had been there. We had been to Oahu before, but never Kauai, and so we had this, like, it was sort of like our ancestors just inviting us, like, this could be a really beautiful home for you, and we're like, okay, we got to go check it out. But of course our logical brain then plans a tour. We're like, well, we'll check out all our options of the places. Anastasia says definitely start with your climate, because it really helps narrow things down. And so we're like, okay, we're just tropical people. And we checked out all four. We planned a tour for, like, I think 4 months or something. We checked out all 4 islands. We checked out Costa Rica and Puerto Rico. We're surfers, so that's sort of our a big thing for us. But the logical mind gets so in there, but like as soon as we landed on Kauai, it was just like, whoa, like the feeling of the land was just calling to us. And even with all those experiences, we then went back the next year. We're like, well, it's between Oahu and Kauai. So we even went back to Oahu and spent some time and looked at properties. But then as soon as we got back on Kauai, it was like, oh, just confirmation. Yeah, this is it. Like the logical brain was saying, like, oh, well, Oahu, you're musicians and there's more opportunities for you to make money on that island being an entertainer, and Kauai is too quiet. But it's like, no, just all of that stuff is just noise. Tune inside and the land will speak directly to you. So I highly recommend anyone, if you could just do like a little tour, check out some of the places on your radar, and you'll just feel it.
Right. That was just like the story I just talked about in 8.1, where the couple, they're driving around like abandoned villages and stuff, and they find the land, and they both feel it when they step out of the car,
And just the community, like the community will embrace you. You'll find those people that are already on the same mission as you, and that's what really also calls you back. There's the land, and then there's the people.
So Lauren, is your land, is that something somebody else owns and you're going to buy? They're selling, or
so right now I'm going back to this guy has a sort of like a king's domain. I don't know if he's read the books, but he's a permaculturist, and he has a beautiful, totally self-sustainable, totally off-grid farm. And he takes in a lot of woofers, willing workers on organic farms. And a couple years ago, we stayed there for about a month, and it was super educational. So that's where I'm headed next. And then my plan is to meet up with a realtor and visit some properties, some small, but I really want to see, there's a few properties that are like 20, 60 some acres that I really want to just see and get on the land and feel what that feels like, to hold that bigger bubble space. And I'm working on a bit of just a slideshow presentation to work with the realtor, and just like to get this idea more fully fleshed out. And I would love to create a community there. I feel like, it's like, again, my logical mind is like, oh, Kauai is so expensive. Can't you just choose somewhere cheaper? But I'm trying not to let that block me, and just be like, yeah, it's an expensive island, but it's also a place where you can also make way more money than other places. So I feel like there's a huge opportunity for agritourism, and showing people what it's like to live this lifestyle, and like just being that kind of example. So there's a lot of opportunities. And so I'm trying not to let the money thing hold me back, trying to step into that bubble, bigger bubble.
That's great. Wonderful.
There's a story from the life of Yogananda where he was looking to acquire land and a place for to headquarter his work, the Self-Realization Fellowship headquarters, which is currently and has been in Los Angeles for, I don't know, since the 20s or the 30s. And when he was going to get the land to find the place, he had been having like visions of a white house, a very large white building on top of a mountain for a long time. And eventually he drove past it coincidentally one day, and he decides to get out. He's like, this is the place. This is it. And it was for sale. And this guy was so bold. He decided to have like an Easter celebration on the property while it still had a for sale sign. Before he even put an offer on it, he had like a couple hundred people there and had this big like Easter celebration. And he's like, I know this is the place. And so what he did, it was a very, large sum of money to buy the place. It was like a rundown hotel, but it was still expensive because it was big and great location. And people are like, how are you going to raise that much money? Like, it's impossible. They're like, it's going to take you 20 years. He's like, 20 years for those who think 20 years, 2 years for those who think 2 years, and 2 months for those who think 2 months. And he got all the money in 2 months. And actually what was happening is right at the moment of the house closing, there was a woman who had to come and physically deliver like $15,000 because the realtor was there. It was like a strict deadline. He had to bring cash, this final amount of cash. And right on the minute of like the realtor, because there's like 10 other people waiting to put an offer in and buy this place right there, and they're about to just take the opportunity away from him, the woman shows up with the thing of cash and and gives it to
Like
him.
a
And it's
movie.
like, God is a master of like print on demand shirts. Like the shirt doesn't exist and it gets manufactured and it gets sent right when you like want it and need it. Like God is a master of like only manufacturing things and sending them to you right in the exact moment, like when you need it, you know? And it's like we always forget that. We look back on it and like, yeah, I got right what I needed right when I needed it, but it's like in the moment it's a little freaky, it's a little freaky and you're like, I'm a little nervous right now. This is wild. What am I doing? Am I actually gonna get this? Like, and so what's possible for us is so much more than like what we imagine. So I say all that to say like blessings and getting your land in Kauai, and I'm sure that you and the creator together will figure out a way, to get that, and it'll come,
Thank you.
Yeah, spirit is never too late. And I think it might have to do as well with like our own creation. So when it gets down to the minute, that tends to be when like we finally let go, when we finally give it up. And then that's when it comes.
Mhm.
So
And bring it back to the bigger cup, like my cup, I need to get a bigger cup.
yeah.
So I can receive all these blessings. So yeah.
In that story I was telling about Yogananda, he was just sitting there pacing back and forth as he was waiting for the money, and a bunch of his disciples are around him and they're like, sir, aren't you nervous? And he's like, no, I know it'll work out. He's like, Divine Mother just likes to keep my life interesting,
Keep you on your toes. Make sure you're paying
yeah,
attention.
right. Like, how bad do you want this? How badly do you believe in me to provide for you,
Yeah. I'd like to share something along those lines, if I may.
Please.
I went through a 4-year journey with breast cancer with my previous spouse, and she passed on March 17th, which is this week, 2001. And I was grieving deeply and seeing a grief counselor. And a month into seeing the grief counselor, I was about to take a trip from Tucson, Arizona, where I was living at the time, to California to a bishop's conference. And the grief counselor was a woman, and she was very psychic. And she said, I know that you're grieving, but be open to a new relationship on this trip. And I went, what? And I'm grieving. What are you talking about? I'll be grieving for the next year. I have no intention of meeting anyone. And she laughed and she said, well, Holy Spirit came to me this morning and said, you're going to be in a new relationship very soon. And it may not be your timing, but it is Holy Spirit's timing. So you might as well surrender to Holy Spirit because it's going to happen anyway. And I just shrugged and shook my head and walked out of there, and went on the trip. And I heard about this spiritual community during that week 5 times, called Damenherd. And the 5th time was after being in Santa Cruz and being so sick I thought I was going to die. I was supposed to go to a retreat in the Gold Country that night, and I couldn't get out of bed. So the next morning I woke up perfectly fine, and I couldn't understand it. And the friend I was staying with said, well, I'm really glad you're fine because I have this workshop to help out with tomorrow, and I wouldn't go if you weren't. And so I said, well, what's the workshop? And she said, it's being given by 2 women from this spiritual community in Italy called Damenherd. That was the 5th time. And I realized I was moved around the chessboard by Holy Spirit from Tucson to Southern California to Santa Cruz and to go to this workshop. So I went to the workshop, and that's where I met my wife, Michelle. And when we were engaged, we went over to Kauai to write our engagement vows. And we wrote them on Hanakapiai Beach, which Lauren may be familiar with. It's an incredibly beautiful beach on the north end of the island, 2.5 miles in on the Kalalau Trail. And then we went back 6 months after we were married, and for our honeymoon there. And we hiked in to the Secret Falls, and along the trail there, there's a right turn, and we got about 100 yards to where the right turn was. And I just stopped, and I just felt the energy up, way up the trail and around the curve. And I said, Michelle, there's a heiau up there. I feel it. A heiau is a sacred site where there are birthing ceremonies and other marriage and life event ceremonies. And so we walked around, and we walked 100 yards up, and there on the left was the heiau. And I just stopped and closed my eyes, and I felt the presence of the ancestors and the elders, and had a flashback to having been I'm just so immersed in the energy of this, of having led a birthing ceremony for the royal family there in that heiau. And so it's home. It's just totally home for both Michelle and for me. And so we feel as a union of being, I can say, because she's not in the room, but nonetheless, as a union of being, I can say we feel the calling. So I look forward to see what unfolds.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. Oh, that's so good. Yes.
Thanks. I feel so blessed in so many ways. So very blessed.
Very beautiful, Eliyahu. Thank you. That was wonderful. You're a gifted storyteller.
Thanks.
It reminds me of something too. I keep mentioning Yogananda on this call for whatever reason, but he also said that the Native Americans would be reincarnating in white skin bodies in order to reclaim the land which was theirs. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone here, but I think that explains the attraction and the calling in a lot of ways. But yeah, well, Kauai, I'm surprised there isn't a King's Domain settlement in Hawaii yet, based on how many passionate people are there, but everything is on
Well,
timing,
it's already, it is, that's the thing. When I went there, it already is happening. And it's like my friends that are in this beautiful little tribe, spirit family. They already are doing this with that. I mean, actually one girl, she has read the books. My good friend Saisha, she's the daughter of the Molawa'a Organica farm. Her parents own that farm, and they've given her like a 2.5 acre corner of the farm to make her own thing. And she's already got a school there. And then my friends we have more friends across the street that have 2 acres, and they've already got 3 generations now living on that property. And it's all, I don't think she's even read the books, but they're already living the lifestyle. So when I went there, I was just like, oh, like it's so easy to just plug in, even if it's not like specifically this, community, but it's like the community is already there. It's already welcoming, and the Hawaiian culture is already so in alignment, or we're in alignment with the what the Hawaiian culture has been doing for thousands of years. And so it's easy to tap into that. It's very much alive there. And that's why I feel like even despite all the challenges of moving to such a remote place and such an expensive place, that these islands are so ripe right now and could really be leading away, because who doesn't want to go and live in paradise in the jungle? I mean, some people, that's too far for them, but I'm feeling like I'm close to Seattle right now, and I'm just like, no, I just want to be away from all of that, and I want to be as remote as I can be with like all the nature and the ocean. So
Like that
Lauren,
phrase. Go ahead, Mark.
Lauren, where in Kauai is this?
North Shore area, Molowa'a, northeast corner.
Yeah, Hawaii is so special to me and to so many people, and the veils are so thin there that you can see, you can see the ancestors, you can see into the higher dimensions, you can feel the heiaus. I was given a Hawaiian name by deceased Hawaiian kahunas on Maui, up a mountain in Maui, and like for like 7 years I didn't know what it meant, because I didn't know any Hawaiian. And finally I just Googled it, or I looked it up or whatever, and it meant something that I felt was so beyond. Talk about bigger bubble. But it's Manahua, and it means the seed of healing power. And I've always been so drawn there. I'm a little bit afraid of the ocean rising. So I'm not sure. I don't want to introduce this into the formula, but personally, that's one of my concerns, that that the oceans will rise, and that could be a slight problem for Hawaii, especially lowland Hawaii. What's the word for when something is at sea level? Sea level Hawaii. But God willing, that special place will be protected, and everything will be perfect and wonderful there. And Kauai, for me, the two more precious islands are Maui and Kauai. And Kauai, the Garden Island, is probably the most powerful spiritually of all of them. So I just see it happening for you there, and God bless it.
Thank you, everyone, so much for your votes of confidence, and just feels so good to be supported and held by everyone and hear all your visions too.
I think I feel a very warm feeling kind of coursing through me, and I definitely feel the higher power wants this to happen, and will make it happen. I feel strongly about it. Normally I wouldn't share something like that, but I really feel it.
Well, it really helps to just, like I said, communicate these things, to say my dreams out loud, even if they feel a little scary. they're too big to be like spoken aloud yet or something, or I'm supposed to just like, oh, wait until, I mean, and
Yeah.
there's a thing too, though, to containing the light, and sitting on something and letting it grow, like hatching an egg. But within this safe space that you've created here with this community, it feels like speaking it is feeding my light and not leaking it out. So
Right. They say, well, it's a line I got from a song, but you know, if they don't know your dreams and they can't shoot them down, but you're not in a group of people who are going to shoot your dreams down, we're going to contribute to your dreams, you know, and give our prayers and best thoughts. And I'm glad that this functions as a space for that, you know, the entire community that we've created. I run around saying I'm going to publish the books all the time, and I have barely even started the negotiation. I'm waiting on the money to show up, but I got the money. It's just a matter of time.
all
You know,
flowing. I mean, I'm sure all these
yeah,
you've been doing feel like you've been doing them for forever, but it's all just
indeed.
trust that timeline and know that your
I'm not worried
excitement
about it.
will fuel it all, and it'll all happen in divine time.
God makes plans and man laughs, you know. I mean, man makes plan and God laughs. See, and
We need
man
to
laughs at himself for quoting things incorrectly, and you know,
That's
so
no, it's not. There's no typos. There's no slips. It's
that's right.
it's our turn to laugh while God makes the plans.
Exactly, and maybe God chuckled a little bit at that one, you know. But you know, it is what it is, and well, my dear friends, we're starting to hit around that time. It's looking kind of like that time. Um, I wanted to open the floor to anybody if you wanted to share any kind of closing thoughts or remarks. If not, I could probably jump in and say some stuff, but if there's any final thoughts or anything that any of you feel inspired to share,
Yeah, I would like.
please.
Hi, I'm Max, and to the money thing for the field and so on. So there's also support from the government. So if you, almost every government has like a thing for beginner gardeners or young gardeners. You can try to get them, or also do like a foundation. There are a lot of people trying to get money through foundations, and there are a lot of people for traveling or something. And when you have like this big vision, here in Germany, for example, what we do is like we do like the like this one movie where he says, when you help 3 people and these 3 people help 3 people, and it's going on and on. That's what they're doing in Germany, and they're saying like, when you have a good project, we look it up if it's good, and then everyone is going to give them money, and when they have their homestead, they're giving it to others. So there are already 2 families who are having this money, for example, and they are going to share it again to other people. And also there was a third one. Yeah, I can't
You
remember
got it. You
but
got
yeah.
it. This
That's
happened to me like 4 times today.
Yeah.
Our speed of thought is increasing. We can't keep up with our own thoughts.
Yeah. And it's going wild right now here in Europe. Like you said, you have like 700 in your Telegram.
Yep.
Like the German canal is like 12,000. Huh?
Yep.
So
yeah, the German Ringing Cedars group is pretty big, and they've done a good job building community there over the years. Do you know we have a Anastasia Foundation representative now in Germany? Have you been on? We have European connection calls actually.
Yeah, well, that's not really like head guy. There are some pioneers.
No, I'm saying we have somebody who's kind of hosting community calls for the European community now. And so our organization is starting to spread out and
cool.
build some community ourselves over there. I'm actually going to do an interview with the German publishers of the books. So that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, to Laureen, everything what's gonna happen to you, it's always the best, huh? So whatever, you can feel trust in it. And yeah, even if your mind says no, it's not good. It's mostly the best thing. And so how Gabriel said, if when you're like going to do your first step, it feels good, the second, and then the third, it's like, fuck. And yeah, we also need to keep in mind, they are like really skilled people, and they are really tough in mind. So they actually can talk to you, and you think it's your voices are talking to you. And if you're gonna let them, they're gonna lead you telepathic in the wrong way because you have like such a Vedic style of energy. Yeah, it's kind of a black magic, so don't refer to it, huh? And go on. And yeah, to the Yogananda thing, huh? It's the same technique than the grandfather of Anastasia told us, huh? When we trying to there's like a, after he tells us to mix up like honey and pollen and the oil to like heal our body. Yeah, so it's just a technique. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Max, it's a pleasure to have you, brother. Thank you for joining. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for that reminder. Do we all have pollen and honey every day? Because I have.
I did it for a long time.
Yeah, I eat a little bit of pollen, a little bit of honey every day. And pollen was the only thing that I've ever found that eradicated my juniper allergies here in New Mexico. Nothing else came close to eradicating them. I found a few things that alleviated it. But bee pollen is magical and mystical and amazing. In a way, it reminds me of mother's milk, which I never had, which is why I had allergies. But it's, you know, it's kind of beyond almost everything else out there. So you all probably have it too as well, I would imagine.
I believe Anastasia said in one of the books that just breathing the pollen in the air is part of her fuel. And I guess that's sort of how breatharianism works for some people. It's like they're just breathing it right from the air.
Yeah, and her son eating it off the grass with his fingers. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't trust on this one. There's so much bad stuff in the air. So maybe when there were paradise 1,000 years ago, so we can just live on earth, on air and love. But now we need to clean, huh?
Yeah, there's powerful natural detoxifiers, the charcoal, the bentonite clay, the zeolite clays. Those I'd recommend for yeah, it's because we are still breathing wherever we are, so we're getting whatever's out there, and we can assist our body in eliminating those.
By the way, speaking of the pollen and the honey, there's also and detoxification. There's Anastasia's healing water protocol that she talks about in the 3rd edition of book 1, which I'm currently drinking. I've got 25 gallons of frozen water from a spring, and she says that you can you drink a little bit of this water each day, and then a little sip of cedar oil 3 times a day, and then with honey and pollen. And she says that'll rejuvenate your body and make it younger. And like in 30 days, you'll be noticeably younger and healthier and like cured of all these diseases and things. So there's the part where grandfather is talking about the honey and the pollen. And then there's this other part where she's recommending taking honey and pollen with the water. So I know a lot of people didn't read that third edition, but that chapter is crazy, guys. The chapter Star Woman, she's talking all about water. I'm just gonna share the link. I have the whole Ringing Cedars series in PDFs. I organized it recently. Just gonna share it here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just started that with the freezing and I got my oil in the mail the other day. So
There you go.
And,
Yeah,
and
she's also
where do you get the water?
I collected from a spring about 40
there's a
minutes away from
website
my house.
you can use called findaspring.com. And you can use that to find the closest local spring to you. And people, it's just a community supported site. People just post like, oh, here's how you find it. Oh, here, I got the water tested. Here's what my results were. It's great. Findaspring.com.
That's how I found the spring that I am collecting my water from. Yeah.
What cedar oil? Where are you guys getting? You just ordering it from the Anastasia website? The
McGreeLLC.com is the best place to get it.
okay.
That's the Ringing Cedars company from Russia.
Yeah, I was looking at that the other day. Okay, and when it says it has other things in it, like there's cedar oil, and then there's cedar oil with the sap or something, or
Yep, with the resin.
The resin, yeah. Is there a preferred, do you guys know that you like, or just try?
I would recommend, if you can, it's like a $70 bottle of oil, but it's a 250 milliliter bottle. They call it their handmade oil. That's the highest quality pure cedar oil that they sell.
Okay.
And then if you're feeling real adventurous, they have the cedar elixir, which comes from the oil drops from the cedar cones, actually. Not just the seeds, but it's like extracted from the cones. That stuff is super powerful, super powerful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so.
Thank you. Well, and I had one last thing, 2 quotes on my wall that I really like. I think
Please.
they're both from Rumi or one of those. The first one is, healed are those who have the courage and audacity to feel abundant inside. So, just thinking of finding our land and the resources to get it, and having it show up for us. This is creating this feeling of abundance inside of us to start with. And I think of it as blessed are those who have the courage and audacity. I love those 2 words, to feel abundant. We're not trained to feel that way. And the last one is, read this moment as living prophecy. And when I think of this what I'm looking at on the screen in this conversation, it's very, very prophetic. It's very healing, and the connections are so great here, guys. I'm so pleased to be here. So thank you all for being part of this prophecy that we are moving into, creating it as we go.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of it. History in the making.
Great time.
We're active participants in creating history right now.
My favorite time of life right now.
That's right. And I think we'll end it there, my friends. What an inspiration, what a joy. And thank you all.
Gabriel, before you go, would you post the link for purchasing the cedar oil?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'd appreciate that a lot.
McGreeLLC.com. Eventually, I will be distributing cedar oil through the foundation. Expect that within the next couple months. So the shipping will be quicker and more affordable. We're going to have 2-day shipping anywhere in the country for $7 max. I think it's between $5 to $7, but I've already sorted all that out. So yeah, expect it reasonably soon. Give it a couple months. But yeah, Russia is the best place to get it for now.
Are you in Canada, Gabriel, or are you in the US?
Yes, ma'am. I'm currently in Canada, but I'm looking to relocate as soon as I can.
In Tennessee. Wow.
Tennessee is the main spot. South Carolina. I'm curious about some states a bit further south as well, but Tennessee has really caught my attention for a variety of reasons. Like the climate. Somebody here was mentioning earlier, not too hot, not too dry. Was it Mark? Or somebody was mentioning.
Yeah, that was me.
Yep. Yeah, for many of those same reasons. There's a lot of biodiversity in Tennessee as well. very high amount of biodiversity in certain regions of Tennessee, which I find interesting. But anyway, all right, my dear friends, thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking this time out of your day to be here. And to everybody who's watching this recording, many blessings to you. Many blessings to us in fulfilling this purpose for which God created us and building these king's domains and manifesting our bright dreams of creation. And so blessings to you, my friends. See you in 2 weeks if you want to join me. Got a bunch of events this week. Ariane, dear sister Ariane, and Wyatt. I'm sure many of you will be there. And anyway, yeah, see you soon.
Thank you.
Gabriel, can I ask a quick question before you go?
Sure.
How do I initiate